Needless to say, he probably should have stayed in his own lane.
Welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show, of course, presented by Branded Bills. Make sure you head to brandedbills.com and use that code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. Today's show also presented by Captain Morgan. Make sure that you guys go check out Captain Morgan. I'm Anthony Totri, joined as always by Senor Rubis, Erik Ruby. Of course, we got the Deli Man behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Aaron in the chat, Rob, Wanikin, Ben, Oso, the list goes on and on and on. Bancheesy as well. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Rubis.
Hey.
It's December 1st. Happy December,
wow.
buddy.
Who would have thought, huh? December 1st.
That we would have made it to December?
Yeah, who would have thought?
I mean, that was always kind of my expectation, is that we'd make it to December. Was cool. Yours not? You were expecting not to make it to December?
It just feels like it got here so fast.
It did.
By the way, breaking news, Mo Odom, congratulations. You are the Big 12 newcomer of the week.
Wow. Huge. Huge for the program. We should totally rebrand everything.
Breaking news.
The Modem. Congratulations, Mo.
Congratulations. It's not a small deal. Good for him.
No, especially in this conference. Look, we got a lot to get into today. Just because the regular season is over for Arizona State does not mean that the 2025 season as a whole has been put to rest. Of course, we still don't know where the Sun Devils will be playing their bowl game. We will have some clarity on that situation on Sunday after those conference championships over the weekend. Now, it does look like Arizona State is headed to one of two bowls. Either the LA Bowl or the Sun Bowl. The LA Bowl is December 13th, which would be not this weekend, but the following weekend.
Which is insane and stupid.
And the projected team that they would play in that bowl game is UNLV, which, don't get me wrong, I think that could be fun. You've got
ASU versus ASU.
A bunch of former Arizona State players on that team. Troy O'Meary, Terrence Welch, the list kind of goes on and on there. And then the Sun Bowl would be December 31st. There is a chance still that they go to the Vegas Bowl, but from all accounts, it looks like that is the least likely of those three options.
We're gonna kiss at midnight.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Do you guys have a preference? I know Shane has a major preference. He wants to go to El Paso.
El Paso or Vegas, dude? Come on.
Doesn't want to go to LA. Do you have a preference on either one of these games?
I'd rather go to the LA Bowl, honestly.
I would too. I would rather go to the LA Bowl too.
Totri, why don't you and I just go to the LA Bowl?
Yeah, sure.
No matter what.
Have fun, guys. Good luck. Aside from you wanting to see SoFi, what is the appeal there? You get less money as a school. You play a weaker opponent.
Yeah,
it's in a week.
I'm more so in the camp of like, let's get it over with type of vibe. Like I don't like. I'm not a big bowl game at the end of the year.
Counter argument for you.
Okay.
As soon as that's over, ASU basketball for the rest of your life.
Not for the rest of my life.
For a very long time.
Not for the rest of my life, because then the portal opens in January. I think in terms of like coaching, in all honesty, I think for the team and the program, I think they would rather have the bowl game sooner rather than later, as opposed to all of that dead period time in between December. Then you got post-holiday practices and all that type of stuff, versus you get like a little bye week this week, and then you prep for your opponent in your bowl game. You go play the following Saturday. Everybody can decide kind of what they want to do just in terms of holidays, transfer portal, recruits, like all that type of stuff following that. I'm more so in the camp that you should go to the LA Bowl. Again, there is a little bias there. I want to see SoFi. I think that would be really cool.
It's fine.
But You could, but
Nothing
you've
compar-
been, you've
nothing
been, you've
compares
been,
to
so
El
you could
Paso.
say it's fine. I've been to El Paso,
So have I.
and it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been to either one of those stadiums? Have you been to
No.
the Sun Bowl?
Not either of those. I'd also like to throw in the fact that I would like to spend New Year's with my wife. So if we could do that LA Bowl, that'd be
Lame.
Yeah,
sick.
I mean, Shane
As much
brought
as
up
I
a
love you
great.
guys.
Shane brought up a great point. Nothing stopping your wife from coming to El Paso.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there, Shane. It was a brilliant point on Shane's end.
Leah did tell me, quote, I'm not going to El Paso.
Yeah,
for
my
New Year's
girlfriend
Eve.
said the same thing.
But
Yeah, I
We have
haven't
each
brought it
other.
up, but I'm sure.
Yes, we
my
do
wife
all
would
have
agree.
each other, and all of the other Arizona State folks that would be
it would
going
be so
to
fun.
that game.
Guys, it would be so fun.
Regardless,
Why are you acting like the LA Bowl wouldn't be fun?
it's a bowl game.
Like,
Because
it
it's,
would be
it's
Shane
LA.
just doesn't like LA.
But you're not doing anything different. We can drive to LA whenever. I mean, we can drive to El Paso whenever we want, but you're not going to go to El Paso. There's something
You
great.
want to know why you don't drive
Hold
to El
on,
Paso
hold
whenever you
on,
want? Because
hold
it's El
on.
Paso.
Hold on. There's something great about going to being forced to go to a place that you wouldn't normally go for work and getting out of your comfort zone and experiencing it. Like, you can go experience LA whenever you want because it's like a destination. You want to go there. It's way more fun. Having been on the road for 6 months, it is way more fun to go to these weird destinations and wacky things. The other thing I will say, do you know who owns the LA Bowl? Do you know who sponsors the LA Bowl?
Yeah, Gronk.
Gronk. No, thank you. No.
I have a question. Can we put a poll in the chat? What does chat want to do? They want to go to Sun Bowl or do they want to go to the LA
I
Bowl?
know what chat wants to do.
Well, let's see what chat wants as a whole. There could be a lot of folks on your side that will say, "Hey, let's go to El Paso." Yes, Rubus.
I think that if
Are we
this
just gonna
whole
make the hand raising a thing now?
Yeah. If this whole like head of production thing doesn't work out for Shane, we should get him on the tourism board for El Paso because nobody has sold El Paso harder than Shane.
I've genuinely never seen anyone fight for El Paso harder than Shane, except people from El Paso. They love their city.
I'm more so fighting against LA.
Okay, so you're not even in favor of.
No, I am.
The anti-tourism board.
But if it was El Paso or Vegas.
Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not
sure.
necessarily
I mean,
totally in the camp of like, let's fight the patriarchy, go somewhere that work would never send us, because we've been to Vegas more times than any other city as a company.
But now you're talking about my bias. Like, that's Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Like, dude.
No. I just wanted to see where you stand. That's all.
I only have a bachelor's degree in El Paso. I have a doctorate.
Yeah, you're the dean of students for the School of Las Vegas. Oh, man. Chat, vote in the poll. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to the Sun Bowl at the end of December or in a couple weekends? Would you rather go to LA? Vegas in there as well. So let your voice be heard. We're going to be talking about the 2025 season as a whole. Was it a success or a failure? I've seen a lot of folks kind of going back and forth. I know Rubus and I touched on it post-game, but now that we've had some time to sit, reflect, maybe you guys have some points and thoughts on it. Also going to be getting into the JUCO route for Arizona State because there are a couple of JUCO individuals that could be Arizona State Sun Devils sooner rather than later, and then one Sun Devil already putting his name in the hat for the 2026 NFL draft. So we're going to get to all of that, but I mean, it wouldn't be a college football program if we didn't talk about everything that was going on over the weekend in college football. The coaching carousel has officially started to spin. Rubus, there were a ton of openings going into this weekend, and now we finally have some clarity. Of course, the big one, Lane Kiffin officially leaving Ole Miss to go to LSU. I think there was one tweet that I saw specifically. Heading into next season, I want to say it is a fourth of the SEC will have made a major coaching change going into next season. Of course, the 16-team SEC, we're talking about teams like Ole Miss, LSU, Arkansas, Kentucky. There are a number of schools that will have new head coaches going into the season. I know it was a hot-button topic with Lane Kiffin making that move, especially considering that Ole Miss is expected to be a college football playoff team. They were an Alabama loss in the Iron Bowl away from playing in the SEC championship game against Georgia. And if it wasn't for an incompetent Auburn offense, I think we would be looking at Ole Miss going into the SEC championship against Georgia. Kenny Dillingham decided to take to Twitter on Sunday and post by all accounts, a semi-real, fake Denzel Washington quote. I don't know if it was real or not.
It's real.
It's a real quote. Lane Kiffin had tweeted it or had posted it on Instagram or wherever several years ago. And Kenny Dillingham had posted it. Didn't quote retweet anything, just posted from his own account. Eventually deleted the tweet. Not sure if it was directly a shot at Lane Kiffin or more so just in general on the stage of college football. That feels more likely knowing Kenny Dillingham versus taking a shot at Lane Kiffin. But Kenny's here. Everybody in the SEC looking for a new head coach. Thoughts on anything and everything that went down on Sunday?
First of all, Lane Kiffin, gross. Just the epitome of absolute just grossness. And I think it was a shot at Lane. I think if it wasn't a shot at Lane, that tweet would still be up. But I think Kenny got in his bag a little bit and was like, I kind of think what's going on is pathetic. Obviously, if you read up and follow along with how the Ole Miss program has responded to Lane's decision and everything with that, like, it's a pretty slimy move. Now, at the end of the day, you do what you got to do for your family, right? And for the multiple college-age girls that you're also DMing on the side, you got to take care of them, right? So you need to go where you feel like is best for your career, but to abandon a team that's going to the college football playoffs is like, it's like the antithesis of what like Kenny Dillingham has built here, which is stick through it and build up. And when the going gets tough, you stay. And when the going is great, you don't just go and leave for another opportunity. You see it through and you enjoy it. And I think that there is this focus on Kenny about, enjoying the sport and enjoying college football. And more it turns towards this really weird, poorly timed business instead of like, hey, this is like a really cool sport and a really cool atmosphere that we can all be a part of.
Yeah, I think that's all fair. Emily in the chat says, I remember how embarrassing it was for Lane Kiffin to get fired from USC back in 2013.
Hell yeah.
I've got a number of thoughts on this, and I'm sure the Daily Man does as well. I think as it relates to Lane Kiffin, I understand both sides. I understand the folks, especially at Ole Miss, that hate this. Right, that hate the fact that their coach, who's been there for 6 years now, has up and abandoned them, especially taking a ton of that offensive coaching staff with him, which is going to leave this team really battered and bruised going into a college football playoff game, likely a college football playoff game that they are going to host. So I completely understand that. I also understand the decision on Lane's part, right? This is not the first time that Lane Kiffin has made a dramatic move in college football, right? This is somebody that was at Tennessee for a year before going to Ole Miss or going back to Bama. Like, he's been all over the college football realm, right? From USC to now LSU, FAU. Like, he's been all over the place. Does it suck that he left when he did? Yes. Is that a Lane Kiffin issue? In my mind, no. That's more of an NCAA. Like, again, why do you even exist? Because this calendar that you have doesn't make any legitimate sense, right? Like, all of these coaches, in theory, not just Lane leaving LSU, every major coach that got poached from another Division I school ultimately is going to have to give up coaching their team in a bowl game, playoff, etc. Now, I think the only one this cycle has been Lane Kiffin going from Ole Miss to LSU. But like, these smaller schools are seemingly allowing their coaches to go and coach their teams in the postseason, whether that be playoff, whatever, right? John Sumrall going from Tulane to Florida. I want to say Tulane is going to let him coach in the postseason. Sure. The same thing goes for Bob Chesney going from where is he going from?
James Madison.
James Madison, yeah. To UCLA. They're going to allow him to coach in the postseason, which is, again, I think more so like smaller school going to big school versus, going from a Division I team to another Division I team in the same conference, right? This, again, I understand why folks are specifically upset with Lane, because it is like, hey, you've shown that you can win here, right? Ole Miss is having the best season they've ever had, and then you bounce and leave LSU, which we just saw Brian Kelly do several years ago from Notre Dame to LSU. It did not work out. But for me, this is more so an NCAA scheduling calendar issue. Why is everything at this point in time scheduled the way it is? I think the portal window needs to be pushed back. I think the spring football calendar needs to be pushed back. I think everything seemingly needs to be pushed back a little bit. That way the postseason has a little bit of time to breathe, right? Like ultimately,
for sure.
the end of the season happens and drop of a hat. If you're a new school, you got to go, or if you're a school looking for a major head coach, you got to get him. And if you're LSU and you need the answer on Lane. Otherwise, you got to go a different direction and get somebody else, right? Because recruiting, you've got signing day, you've got early signing day, you've got the transfer portal window in January. Like, you have to make these decisions if you're a school and a coach immediately. So again, this more so is a knock on the NCAA just for being the NCAA. They're a useless organization that does absolutely nothing.
Yeah, 100%. And I do feel like there's a couple more things that we could unpack here, and we absolutely will do that, but we're going to get to it on the other side of our first break.
I'll tell you what, Friday was certainly rough for Arizona State fans. We're not going to talk specifics, but you know what I did the following day to really ease the stress of that Territorial Cup? Well, I indulged in pure edibles, and you get UFC this weekend. So you know exactly what I'm going to be doing, sitting on my couch, indulging in pure edibles. Look, they were founded in Arizona and they're available in 130 dispensaries statewide. So if you have a dispo near you, odds are you could probably find some pure edibles. Now, the best part about pure edibles in my mind is the fact that they don't taste like weed. There are a lot of gummies out there that tell you they taste like this, they taste like that. At the end of the day, well, they taste like weed. That's not the case when it comes to pure edibles. They taste like candy. They're a full-fledged candy company offering gummies, kicks, which are their version of Starburst chews, soft candies like caramel, and then hard candies as well. Make sure you go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries across Arizona.
Well, we might not have had a lot of reasons to cheer over the weekend. When we do cheer, we cheer hard and we celebrate harder. And here at PHNX, we always keep things local. And that's why Three Amigos Tequila is a staple for Arizona State fans and local sports fans in general. Family owned, right here in the Valley, founded in 1939 and crafted in Mexico with 100% Blue Weber agave. It's award-winning for a reason, smooth, bold, and made for moments that matter. And really any moment, whether you want to sip the añejo or mix the blanco in, whether you want to have some tequila sunrises or like the official drink of, I think, the PHNX Sun Devils crew, a nice little tequila soda and lime. And what makes Three Amigos different? Well, that's easy. It's the agave that they farm themselves. No outsourcing needed. They create a true farm-to-glass tequila. So this season, tailgate, toast, and celebrate with the Valley's and PHNX's favorite tequila, Three Amigos.
It is Cyber Monday, and of course, we got a deal going on here at PHNX. Rubus, starting with the merch, we were running 30% off. That Black Friday sale ends tonight, 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you head to the PHNX locker and you get your hands on some of that merch. Again, 30% off. Make sure you guys save. Again, if you got a Valley sports fan in the family, well, again, head to the locker. Make sure you get their gifts packed away before the holidays. Go to gophnx.com to learn more, Rubus. We also got a Die Hard sale going on.
Yes, sir. You can become a diehard for only $26 for that first year. That's 67% off. Plus, you get a free t-shirt and merch discounts as well. If you know another sports fan in your life that you think would enjoy the behind-the-scenes access, specifically on the ASU side of things, lots and lots of behind-the-scenes access in our diehard Discord. But, of course, you get access to all sorts of different things as a diehard. I'm sure every single diehard here in chat can attest that it is well worth the full price for 67% off. It's basically like the best deal you'll ever see in your entire life until we maybe have another sale on a diehard membership in a little bit, but it might not be for a while. So take advantage of this while you can.
Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review. What's up, Wes Beasy? Wes Beasy says, come on, LA Bowl. I don't want to go to El Paso.
Amen.
We're with you. We're with you. Everybody here's with you except Shane. Shane's not with you. Shane's actually directly against you
No, he's directly against me because I've stated my claim before.
Yeah, but he lives in LA.
Okay.
So he's
I live
always
in
been, he's
Arizona.
always anti everything
We're just
outside.
naming stuff now. I like
Hey, I also live in Arizona. I just want that on the record.
See? We're just naming
Yeah.
stuff now.
Yeah, there you go. Just naming things. Also, in terms of potential Big 12 stuff, I saw a couple people throw it in the chat. BYU's Kalani Sitake, a lot of rumors about him and Penn State potentially linking up to be the future of the Nittany Lions. Again, if that were a thing, I think that would be a phenomenal home run, like head coach hiring for Penn State. I'm not sure though how much he actually wants to leave BYU, especially considering what he's building there in terms of a program. We know BYU invests in athletics. It would be very interesting, and it would be more so interesting to see how the BYU fan base would react to potentially losing Kalani Sitake to a massive school like Penn State.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. And maybe that's just because you think, oh, a guy like Kalani, like he wouldn't go. But at the end of the day, I guess people make decisions that don't make sense all the time. But I'd be pretty surprised if he leaves, considering the success, obviously, that they've had. There's a chance that they either get an auto bid by winning the Big 12 championship or get an at-large bid to the college football playoffs to be a school like BYU, and to get that, especially considering the fact that they were doing this all with a freshman quarterback this year. I think it's very impressive. And I think that when you're coaching at BYU, obviously there are certain ties to that school that go beyond just wanting to coach that sport. And so I would be pretty surprised if he left for Penn State. But again, at the end of the day, money talks. And kind of to your point, Totri, I think that ASU fans, we got like a weird dose of this schedule stuff with the Sam Levitt news a couple of weeks ago, where it was like, why is this happening now? Like, this team's in the most important stretch of football all season, and we're getting news like this. And I know somebody in the chat said, like, you can't change the schedule around because of semesters. Look, at this point, college football itself is its own unique thing from college. And I know that people probably don't want to hear that, but I think that for the sake of the sport, you can't just base it around the semesters. Like, you've already changed so much and made things that are unrealistic, right? Like, Stanford is a part of the ACC. We're obviously not going off of like the well-being of
nobody gives, let's be real, nobody cares athletically about the school semesters.
No, and that's the thing is, it's not like the football players will still have to do school. And now some of them to different levels than others. Obviously, there are a lot of kids on ASU who are very committed to their education. But it's like, at the end of the day, you're still balancing school and football. I think at this point, you just kind of have to treat it like its own separate entity, because that's how it's acting. And as funny as it is, and as great it is for online content that Lane Kiffin is jumping ship right before the college football playoffs for a team that he beat this season, and a team that's in a terrible position from an athletics director perspective, from just a chaos perspective, and the type of like fun and weird storylines that are coming from that. At the end of the day, it's unfair to the team. Like, I know that that's the reality of the situation, that you can't control this, and you can't really blame Lane for making the decision at this time. Maybe he could have handled it better. But this is unfair to all the kids on Ole Miss who are putting together maybe the best season in program history, and now their backs are against the wall when like they had a shot at like winning a national championship.
Who do you blame here? Is it?
I think it's everybody.
Is it a Lane situation? Is it the NCAA? Is it the athletic director? Because like there's obviously the side where it's like Lane wanted to coach that team. He wanted to coach the team in the playoff and go from there. Now, would LSU would have let him do that? That's, I think, more so a question. LSU, I don't know if you saw the report. Apparently, I want to say it's from On3 or somebody. So sorry if I'm representing it. But the story is Lane Kiffin will still get paid his postseason bonus by LSU. So if Ole Miss goes to the national championship and wins, I believe he's due $1 million in bonuses. LSU is going to pay him that regardless, because Ole Miss is not going to let him coach in the postseason. So, like, should Ole Miss have let him coach while still technically being the future head coach at another major university within the conference? Like, I don't know who you really throw the blame on here, because I'm with you. I think you feel for the kids here, right? This is like you put in so much time, effort, and energy in these types of seasons to get to this point in the year. And then at the drop of a hat, your last regular season game, like just think about the 24 hours that those kids went through. You're sitting there after winning and beating Mississippi State on what, Friday night. Saturday, you're watching Auburn and Alabama in the Iron Bowl. If Alabama loses, you're going to the SEC championship. That game came down to the wire. 24 hours later, not only are you not going to the SEC championship, your head coach is moving to Baton Rouge and taking half the offensive staff with him. Like, I don't know who you blame here in this situation outside of NCAA scheduling.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think that a lot of people are the culprits. Obviously, the two schools' rivalry and beefing with each other, like, you're not going to let one coach for the other. Like,
yeah, I totally understand that.
Right. And that's understandable, right? And again, that's kind of the nature of the beast of college football. And I think the beast of college football is kind of what you blame here. Now, again, there are a lot of players who didn't want Lane to stick around, right? Maybe it would have been, I guess, quote unquote, better, on paper for their chances to win the college football playoffs or to go on and make a run. But like, if you hate your head coach because he's leaving to your rival school who he coached you to beat earlier this year, are you going to go run through a wall for that guy? Right? I don't think so. I think it was the right move by Ole Miss to not let him coach. I don't think they would be better with Lane Kiffin leading the way, knowing that he has a foot out the door. Right? It is, at the end of the day, it's an unfortunate timing, and there is a lot to put on the NCAA's shoulders. But at the end of the day, I also feel like there's something to be said about, with Lane Kiffin, the fact that he made this decision in the first place. I think there is some responsibility to bear. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
No,
like,
yeah. And that's exactly what he wants.
And you have to do what's best for you and your family. But let's also not act like Lane Kiffin was, begging for money on the side of the street because he was having a hard time getting by. That man was in a real good spot, a real good position, building something great in an SEC program that was becoming a premier program and having their best season of all time. Now, are there benefits to moving to LSU? For sure. Are there benefits to staying at Ole Miss? Absolutely.
Yeah,
Will you be taken care of handsomely staying at Ole Miss? Absolutely. So I don't want it just to be like Lane had his hands tied and had to go take the job at LSU. He didn't have to do that. He still made the decision to go. And so I do think a lot of that responsibility falls on him, even if that decision should have been at a different time and he couldn't control that part of it.
I agree. And I think, again, like, wrapping this up, just a quick devil's advocate throwing this out here is, like, there's the argument if he wanted his cake. He wants his cake and he wants to eat it too. Like, he baked the cake, right? Like, this is not like somebody that was just an assistant coach getting propped up. Like, he spent 6 years there to get to this point. It's not like he didn't have a major, role in building it. I totally understand from Ole Miss's perspective, though, not letting him coach. Real Pigeon in the chat, who I want to shout out for becoming a member, I want to say over the weekend or our last Friday show. So we really, really appreciate you, Real Pigeon. Sorry for not mentioning that a little bit earlier. He says, I blame LSU for firing Kelly in the worst way possible and then offering the moon to Lane because they are desperate and pathetic. Let's see. Desperate and pathetic. Lane has only left Ole Miss because of the ridiculous LSU offer.
Which, sure.
Like, it's understandable. But again, I think to sum all this up, like, it shows why Kenny Dillingham is such a rarity in college football, because there is, without question, Kenny Dillingham could have gone somewhere in the SEC. He could have, and probably had Big 12, Big 10 schools calling him saying, hey, come on over, right? We can give you more money, more resources to really build something. But at the end of the day, Kenny Dillingham stood on business. He said all along, hey, I'm an Arizona State Sun Devil. He wants to be a lifer here. This is his dream job. And not to say when the going got tough, right? Because again, an 8-4 season, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, isn't like, the house is burning down. But he had every opportunity in the world to go jump ship. And I don't think anybody would have, like, realistically blamed him, because in theory, it would have been viewed as a step up in his coaching career. And him staying here despite everything, like, it shows you who he is and why he's such a unique figure now in all of college football, realistically.
Yeah. And that's the thing with Kenny, right? Is that you're right that I think from a national perspective, nobody would have blamed him, but obviously his messaging is a lot different than Lane's. And I do think locally it would be a similar resentment almost. I mean, it'd be tough because, yeah, this guy baked the cake, right? But it's like the guy baked the cake, gave you a taste of the greatest cake you've ever had, and then took it to your like rival's house and said,
Yeah.
hey, why don't you have this cake instead that I baked over there at my other friend's house? And so with Kenny, I think this kind of goes into my previous point with Lane to kind of put a bow on things. Like, you can always find a place with more money in college football. If you've had success, somebody's going to offer you more money. We've seen who Lane Kiffin is. And by all means,
Yes.
he has every single right to do what he does, and he is objectively a good football coach. There is a market for him. He wanted to get paid a certain way. He got paid a certain way. But you are not forced to do anything when you're in a position like that. Just because there's a big check in front of you doesn't mean that you have to take it. Kenny Dillingham has probably been approached with much more lucrative offers, even though Arizona State's taking care of him pretty well. Right now, schools with a higher baseline, higher resource pool, different conference, right? These are all things that if what you care about is that side of it, you can jump ship. But if you're Kenny Dillingham, you've proven that that's not what you feel like. And I think a lot of people will look at us talking about this that are kind of on the outside looking in and be like, oh, well, of course the Sun Devils podcast says that. Like, look, at the end of the day, you just got to call a spade a spade. Lane Kiffin is Lane Kiffin. He does Lane Kiffin things. Kenny Dillingham, through his short time now in college football as a head coach, has proven who he is over and over again. And if he jumped ship this season, so many national voices would honestly be like, wow, this is the best young hire in college football.
Yeah.
Way better received than what Lane has done. So at the end of the day, this is all Lane Kiffin's own decision making. He can't decide when it happens, so we can, hold space and talk about that. But Lane doesn't have anybody to blame but Lane. He's making a decision as a grown-ass man, and he needs to be held accountable for it.
Yeah, 1,000%. I'll be honest. I wouldn't be losing much sleep if I just signed a $90 million or whatever deal it was. Would you be upset you don't get to coach your team? Yes. Money talks. And like you said, Lane Kiffin will do Lane Kiffin things. He's proven that year over year over year. But focusing back into Arizona State, the question at hand is, was the 2025 regular season a success or, far from it, a disappointment, a failure? We're going to answer that question on the other side of this quick break. Look, if you're a Sun Devil fan looking for a staycation, well, look no further than Gila River Resorts and Casinos. A bunch of locations that you guys should go check out, including Wild Horse Pass, Lone Butte, Vequiva, and Santan Mountain. You guys, when you go, you're going to experience the best that the Valley has to offer because, of course, nobody does it better. And I'm a big believer that when it comes to a staycation or a vacation, if you're somebody out of town looking to come visit Arizona, well, everybody kind of wants to do their own thing from a family perspective. Maybe one of you wants to hang out by the pool in the hot tub. Well, you can go do that. Maybe you want to have a solo steak dinner. You could do that too. Or you can go hang out at the sports book, win some money, or the gaming floor. Doesn't matter what you want to do. You could do it all at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. But of course, there is one thing that you always have to keep in mind, and that is that you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Make sure you visit playatgila.com for more details.
Look, I know what you're thinking, Erik. That's a cool-ass hat, and I would tend to agree with you. Of course, it is a branded Bills hat. Look, I love branded Bills. I don't have enough room in my closet for all the branded Bills hats that I own. This one gets broken out on special occasions. This is the Smokin' Lane Kiffin pack celebrating Kenny Dillingham's special occasion here because just the fabric on this one is different, but they're all so high quality. Whether it's snapbacks, truckers, fitted beanies, or tees, Brand Bills has you covered with performance and style. Of course, they partner with Arizona State University. They also partner with the Phoenix Suns, and they're a local company that can help you out with your own personal brand like they helped us out here at PHNX with their own custom PHNX Branded Bills hats. And right now, you can head to brandedbills.com. Use code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. That's brandedbills.com. Use code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order.
Wes Beasy and Chad Dilly is a man of his word, and one of the main reasons Champ is a Devil for life. Things you love to hear. Doug in the chat. Okay, here's another question you guys won't answer, but this cycle is ridiculous with good jobs. I always thought Dilly might leave for LSU. Now I don't know if he leaves for anybody else. Not sure. I see a question in there, but I agree. I don't think Kenny Dillingham would leave for another job, especially this cycle. The best jobs have certainly already been filled. You look at LSU, you look at Florida. Ole Miss is promoting from within, naming their defensive coordinator the head coach. I think the only major job out there is Penn State at this point. I don't even think those jobs were going to be the jobs that maybe would have specifically targeted Dilly. I think LSU was always trying to get Lane Kiffin. Maybe you call Kenny Dillingham if that doesn't work out. If there were going to be a job this cycle that he were going to maybe have some interest in, just in terms of, I think, like nationally, it would have probably been the Auburn job, just based on he had, he spent time there. It's in the SEC, that type of stuff. And again,
Taco Mama.
Yeah, Taco Mama. I don't think necessarily he would have had interest in it. More so they would have had a lot of interest in him. But again, like I really genuinely don't believe there is another job this cycle that he would go to. And again, like you think about the last 2 or 3 college football cycles in terms of head coaching, right? Like Washington, Bama, Arizona, Florida, LSU, Penn State, all of these major jobs have come open. And, Arizona probably doesn't belong in that conversation. But, like, all of those major jobs opening, and Kenny Dillingham still has 10 toes in Tempe. I just don't see it happening.
Right. And kind of one last thing on that, because, we bake it down to, okay, like the money, right? You have that offer in front of you. When we talked about Kenny leaving, or like the potential of Kenny leaving, even though we said on here that he was not going anywhere from the start, we said it took away his superpower, right? Like how he sits there and talks to kids and says, well, I'm going to be here. Do we think there's any way that Lane Kiffin throughout the season wasn't like rallying his troops about going on and winning the college football playoffs and playing in December and playing in January, like talking to these kids, investing in these kids, right? Like that is your word as a person. That is your word as a coach, as somebody who recruited kids there, right? Invested in these kids. So again, we could talk about the money side of things all we want. At the end of the day, a lot of people make those decisions in college football based off of that, including players who are not fully exempt from that type of conversation either. But like if Kenny sat here and was like, last year, right? ASU is in the middle of their best season, like almost ever. And news comes out in December that Kenny Dillingham is taking so-and-so job out there. And it's like, okay, like you can't blame him, but that's a scumbag move,
yeah,
right?
You can't
like,
say one thing and go do something completely different, right?
And
His
there's
whole
no way
shtick
that
is
Lane
like, I want
Kiffin-
people at Arizona State. I want people that
Right.
want to be Sun Devils. But if
and
you don't
there's
even
no
want
way
to be a
that
Sun
Lane
Devil,
Kiffin didn't do something similar,
Yeah.
right? And so just because scumbag moves are normalized and accepted, in that type of realm, and again, can you necessarily blame all the coaches for doing that? Like, no, you see people leaving smaller schools for bigger schools. That's the game. This specific situation, I think, is deserving of certain critiques and certain ire. And certainly I think that you have felt that beyond just the fact that our guy's leaving us, but more so like how you are doing that and what you are doing with that. And to also make your statement out there to try to like put down the AD and put like all, it's like, dude, come on, man. Like you're the crux of all of this. Like you're the reason why this is happening. None of this happens if you don't go out there and make this decision. Just own up to it and roll with it. That's the only thing that you can do.
Kevin in the chat, how about Tony Romo? Yeah, what about him, Kevin? Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast.
Romo to
I
Penn
love you
State?
too, Ruby.
Is that what we're talking about?
Look, the 2025 regular season is indeed over. In college football, your Arizona State Sun Devils went 8-4 in the Territorial Cup. Unfortunately, was lost, given back to Arizona this past Friday in a 23-7 loss. Erik, really throughout the season and even a little bit on Friday, you and I have really kind of gone back and forth on this question of, was the season a success? Was it a failure? Was it a disappointment? What was it? And I think, again, early on in the season, I know we had some discussions during that Mississippi State postgame show of you were ranked number 11, right? Preseason poll, these were expectations, yada, yada, yada. I think it's a lot easier now at least in my eyes, to have this conversation about the entirety of the season now that it has, wrapped up. Yes, there is a bowl game at the end of it that you'll play in, and it should, in theory, have some sort of impact on how the season, is viewed, win or loss, right? You always want to go out on a high note. But I do want to get into what you think, what chat thinks, what Shane thinks, what I think, because I think this is a very interesting point of conversation, given the fact that, again, this is a team that was fresh off a conference championship. It's a team that was fresh off going to the CFP, a play away from advancing past Texas in the college football playoff. Yet, you finish 8-4. The only postseason you can realistically look to at this point in time is now the Sun Bowl or the LA Bowl, which, again, it's a bowl game nonetheless. There are a lot of teams that I think would love to go to either of those bowl games. I want to get everybody's answers on this question on the other side of our third break.
Look, you want to be prepared for anything in life, the good and the bad, and unfortunately, bad things do matter. So do your research after an accident or a serious injury, and the lawyer that you hire needs to be the right decision. And the right decision is always the husband and wife law team. Mark and Alexis Breyer, of course, make up that team and lead that team. And let's face it, after a serious injury, you want to hire an attorney that's focused on your best outcome, not how much money the firm is going to make. Not only are they specialists and completely focused in injury and wrongful death litigation, but also they care about you, and they don't care about just adding money to their pocket. That's why they'll make you a promise. They promise that you will receive at least as much in your pocket as they receive for their fee, even if they have to reduce their attorney's fee to do so. Plus, you can cancel your fee agreement at any time for any reason. You may speak with one of their lawyers as often as you choose about anything you'd like to discuss, and you have the right to trust that they, as your lawyers, will tell you both the strengths and the weaknesses of your claim so that you can make an informed decision. So make the first of many informed decisions by contacting the husband and wife law team first if you've had a serious injury at 602-783-8841, or visit their website at the link in our show notes and tell them PHNX sent you.
Look, when it comes to finances, there are a bunch of different avenues, a bunch of different questions you may have. So, of course, you need somebody that you can trust. And who do I trust? Who does Rubus trust? Well, that is Desert Financial Credit Union. The only place also you guys can show your team spirit every time you make a purchase with those exclusive branded debit cards with your favorite teams. They got a Cardinals one. They got an ASU one. And hey, if you're up north and you're a Lumberjack, well, they got NAU ones as well. Now, the reason that I look to DFCU, again, there are a lot of different avenues and different questions I have when it comes to money. And thankfully, Desert Financial has a team of financial experts who, of course, are committed to their members, and they can answer any of those questions that you may have. Checking, savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and more. Plus, they're trying to help you out and give you some money in bonuses. When you open a free checking account online, get $200 in bonuses. Make sure you get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review. Sharon already just ripping off her answer. Of course it's disappointing, but the injuries are the biggest story and reason for the detour, although maybe not the whole reason, but I give them a lot of credit for fighting. So, Rubus, here we are at the end of the season, 8-4. We both predicted very different seasons. I think Shane and I had this team at 10-2, and I believe you had them at 11-1.
That's right.
I had 9 wins.
You had 9 wins.
Yep.
Did I also have 9, or did I?
No, you had 10.
I had 10 and you had 11. Yep. Erik.
Totri's like, actually, I took 8-4.
No, I mean I didn't. I just didn't know. I think we pulled it up a while back. 9 or 10 wins. Again, regardless, this team didn't have either one of those. So, in your eyes, was this a failure, a success, or somewhere in between?
You and I have been doing this dance for quite some time now.
We have. So tango, buddy. Let's go.
Oh, I'm an expert at tangoing now. I'm winning Dancing with the Stars with how much I'm tangoing on this podcast. No, look, man. The answer is that there's a nuance, right? The answer is that yes, it is a failure, but yes, there are many reasons that are out of their controls. Now, again, I know that you vehemently believe that it's not a failure, and I do agree with like 98% of what you're saying. Like, I agree with the entire buildup to it, but I also do think that understandably so, and knowing that other teams have had worse seasons. You can look at South Carolina, for example, as a team that was in a similar position as Arizona State that finished with a much worse season. At the end of the day, I sat here for 8 months and talked about how this team is going 11-1. Steamrolling their way to competing at least for the Big 12 championship, a top 10 defense in the country. These are all things that, like, I feel like it's my responsibility now to acknowledge that while there are injuries that are the reason why that didn't happen, if we're being quite frank, beyond the injuries, this team did not play up to its standards, even when Sam Leavitt was playing, even when Jordan Tyson was playing, even when Ben Coleman was playing. Obviously, we didn't get to see Xavier Alford, but again, like, this is a team that I do believe the on-field product was not as good as I expected it to be. Now, that being said, did this team fight like hell to get every single win that they could possibly get? Yes. Is going positive with Jeff Sims as your starting quarterback an abject success? Yes. All of these things are married into one, which is kind of like yes and no. Like, I don't think there's one definitive answer. I do think that there are a lot of the season that is a failure, and I think there's a lot that is a success. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at now that the dust has settled a bit.
Daily Man, quickly, what was the final result of that poll real quick? Because I want to throw in another one in there. Or maybe save the results of that poll. We'll get to it at the end. I do want to throw another poll in the chat. If this season was a success, failure, or disappointment. And I want to get your thoughts, Erik, because you call it a failure. And I want to know if there is, like, if you're specific to, like, changing the words of failure and disappointment. Because I do think there is a big difference in the two, and you stood firm on that. You think it's a failure. Would you, like, are you standing on that it's a failure or disappointment? Or, again, like, I hear you, right? You spend a lot of time saying that this is, what the season was going to be, and this team didn't play up to standards. And then you got a good comment from Wes Beasy saying the season wasn't a disappointment, but some individual games were. So, like, for you, what makes it a failure versus, disappointing?
I think that there have been failures either on an individual game level or from a big picture perspective that made it disappointment. Now here's the thing, right? I think a lot of people hear the term failure and immediately go into saying this season was a nothing, which I don't think is true.
Ben
right?
says, puts it straight here. It says failure is a strong word.
Sure. And that's fair. And I think the reason why I'm comfortable at least using that in certain senses, and maybe the way that I interpret things and talk about things, people take it a little bit differently, is that I decided for myself going into this season to set the bar higher for Arizona State University. Now, that in its own right is a blessing. The fact that I can sit there after an 8-4 season and tell you reasons why I'm disappointed and have a lot of people agree with me, including you, I think, for certain things of why there would be disappointing parts about this season.
Yeah.
Like, I think that in its own right is a testament to Kenny Dillingham and a testament to the players for setting an extremely high standard, right? But in my mind, when you don't meet that high standard, that can be categorized as a failure. Now, again, there's nuance. There's breakdowns. There's categories of failure. There's epic total failure, irredeemable failure, right? That's like Oklahoma State. That's an irredeemable failure of a program right now until they get that turned around. Clearly, we're not talking about Arizona State with that. Again, there's nuance. I'm comfortable saying failure, but I think if people are uncomfortable with the nuance inside of that, then sure, we can go with disappointment. But I think inherently, if you're talking about disappointing, there are elements of that you can consider a failure.
Yeah, I think, again, it's a nuanced conversation. Need Down in the chat puts it in a way that I think sums it up really well. It says disappointment, not a failure. ASU isn't a perennial power. ASU isn't churning out 10-win seasons year after year after year. You talk about setting the bar differently, right? So I think when you set the bar as high as you did, which, again, all things that you saw in 2024 and that we've heard and seen, I think you were justified in raising that bar. But I think in raising that bar when you did, again, as a team, and I did too, right? Again, 9-10 win season, whatever it is, that this team needed to play like it was contending for a Big 12 championship. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they were contending to play in the Big 12 championship. They were one of 4 teams that going into the final week of the season had a percentage to even make it to the Big
Sure.
12 championship. Of course, it didn't go their way in their game or other games. Even if they would have won the Territorial Cup, we're talking about a team that still wouldn't have gone to the Big 12 championship, given the fact that BYU smacked UCF around and Texas Tech beat West Virginia, and all of those things happened, right? So I think if we're talking about a team that was an established perennial powerhouse, the way Kenny Dillingham, believes Arizona State can be down the line, and we're 5, 6, 7 years down the line, and you turn out a season like this, then yeah, I think failure is certainly a word that you can toss around, right? Like what Penn State did this year was a failure by their standards.
Absolutely.
By their standards as a program year after year after year, contending in the Big Ten, going to the CFP, having great seasons. That's a failure. That's not disappointing, right? Alabama, if I think it would have been a failure if they don't even go to the SEC championship and they lose that Iron Bowl game. We're talking about a failure of a season. I think I am more so leaning disappointment / slight success. Again, I understand that when you hear success, given the fact that it was 8-4, you lost the Territorial Cup, whatever, that it can get people to turn their head and look at me a funny way. I totally understand that. But in the last 35 years, Erik, longer than our lifespans, in 35 years, Arizona State has had 12 seasons of 8+ wins. In 35 years, they've only had 12 seasons of 8+ wins. And we're calling one of those 12 an abject failure. I think that just, again, based off of what this school is historically, again, not to say that it's not trending in a different direction where the standard year over year should be at a basis floor 8-4. I just think this year, again, we're 3 years into the Kenny Dillingham experience. We're talking about if this team goes and wins a bowl game at the end of the year, that we're talking about 20+ wins, 20 wins over the last 2 years. I mean, you're gonna take that, especially off the heels of 3-9 twice, right? Back-to-back years. So I think you're gonna take that. And one more little side note before I let you rebuttal here. For all of you wondering about bowl game expectations, again, I say in 35 years, Arizona State has only had 12 seasons of 8+ wins. Of those seasons, of those 12, only 5 of them have ended in bowl wins. 4 of those 5 bowl games, the Sun Bowl. Just throwing that out there.
Well, now you're making me sad. Okay, so I think I have a way to articulate this that we can meet in the middle ground. And again, I think a lot of people will hear the word failure and react to it in different ways.
As they should, because I think it is, like Ben Cheesy said,
Sure.
It is a big word.
So, and that's fine, right? And I like big words. And I like strong statements, and I'm an emotional guy, right? Like this is, we all know this, okay? On a macro scale, in terms of historically for Arizona State football, this season was not a failure. Okay?
It would be considered a success.
Correct. I would say, historically speaking, for this program to have a 2-year run that they have had and to hopefully win a bowl game and get to 20 wins over 2 years, including a Big 12 championship, right? Abject success. Okay? So I'm reaching across the aisle and I am agreeing with you on that.
Okay.
My other side of this is very much specific to just this season. So when I say the harsh words that I say or the negative words that I say, it is simply because of this specific season's expectations going into it that we all believed were warranted and deserved. And I know that there are reasons behind it, but at the end of the day, what happened is what happened. And even before the injuries, we all agreed that this team was not playing its best football. They were still finding ways to win games, but there were a lot of very frustrating issues from a star perspective, from an overall team perspective, and in some cases from a result perspective when you're talking about, the Mississippi State loss, and obviously that comes down to one play, or the fact that you're not scoring over 30 points in a game, or these blatant red zone issues, right? Or the issues in the secondary. Like, there were a lot of things this season that we looked at, even with healthy position groups, that we were like, didn't love that. Okay? Big picture, long term, 8-4, 9-4. 8-5 even. For what the trajectory of this program was 2 years ago, complete success. So if you want to look at it from that way, and I think there is a big part of me that looks at it that way, completely you're right, completely understandable, and 100% correct. But I do think that there is space for coming to terms with the fact that here we are on December 1st, right after the Territorial Cup, and our conversation is Sun Bowl, LA Bowl, Vegas Bowl. That's not what we thought we would be talking about for whatever reason that there would be. So that's kind of where I land on things. And at the end of the day, we can feel however we want to feel. All of us agree that going forward, we're in a good spot with Kenny Dillingham.
Absolutely.
And right now, that's all that matters.
I think, again, if this is the floor, if we're talking about an 8-4 season as the floor, which again I think is a totally, acceptable floor for this program, given the fact that this is, again, not a CFP blue blood yet, like Wes Beasy says. You also, which we've done this a number of times, gone through the injuries. No QB1 for the majority of the year. On top of that, Jeff Sims is who you rocked with, right? No JT for a month. No starting center. No starting safety for the entirety of Big 12 play. Like, there were a lot of issues going on injury-wise. And injuries, again, we made it very clear on Friday for the Territorial Cup. It can be, you can acknowledge that it's a reality, but not use it as an excuse at this point in the year, because that's what it is, right? You know that you've been a banged-up, injured team the end of the year. That's no excuse for why you lost the Territorial Cup. However, looking at the season as a whole, big picture, it certainly played a role in what Arizona State was capable of doing. Not just that, but we're talking about specifically as it relates to QB1. Yes, he played against Texas Tech. Yes, he played against a number of teams. But Kenny said that this was an injury that he had been going through since the start of conference play, right? So it's not like you ever got to see 100% Sam Leavitt. Now, was he out there 100%? Did the offense look perfect? No, it was far from it, right? There was a lot of things that ultimately led to that. But, like, again, I think you have to mention the injuries overall in the entirety of the season. So if 8-4 is the floor here, I think Arizona State fans would certainly welcome that. And I'm with you. I think, again, looking ahead, I think we all feel more than comfortable about Kenny Dillingham leading the charge for this program, and really what's next in 2026 and beyond. I want to get the Deli Man's thoughts on this season as a whole in 2025, but we are going to take quickly our final break before we hear from the Deli Man.
Look, whether you agree or you disagree, you're an Arizona State fan. At the end of the day, we are all Arizona State fans. If you want to rep your fandom the best, head on over to Rally House. With in-person locations in Tempe Marketplace, Mesa, and Glendale, they have you covered with not just Arizona State gear, but all the local sports gear that you could possibly need. Now, obviously, that Tempe Marketplace location we're partial to. Hell, I was going there before we even had Rally House ad reads on this show. Tons of ASU merchandise, a lot of the ASU merch that I wear on the show, courtesy, of course, of Rally House. And they don't just carry your basics, your hats, and your shirts, but it's everything: drinkware, signage, cooler, socks. They even have those overalls that a lot of people wear to the games. Plus, you can go online and look through hundreds of pages of options just for Arizona State gear alone. So find your local Rally House location, shop their entire product assortment online at www.rallyhouse.com today.
Look, the thing I love about pretty much all of our PHNX partners is that they help you save money, and most of them help you do it every single day, including our friends over at Circle K. They're trying to help you save money, and they've been trying to help you save money for a really long time now. So if you're a regular listener here, the PHNX Sun Devils show, and you haven't already signed up for Inner Circle, I mean, now is the perfect time to do so, because it takes like 30 seconds. Go to the App Store, download the app, email, phone number. That's it. That's all it takes to start saving money with Inner Circle. Literally, the next time you pull up to the pump after enrolling in the Inner Circle, you guys can save 25 cents off on your first 5 fill-ups. That's 25 cents off per gallon. Not to mention, they got these amazing things called Inner Circle Fuel Days, where you guys can save 40, sometimes 50 cents off per gallon on gas. It starts to add up. Come on, guys. In today's economy, you got to save every opportunity possible again. Make sure you join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. I want to thank everybody watching live who has been, following along the entire season. Of course, just because the regular season is over does not mean that this stops. We go year round here on the PHNX Sun Devil Show, bringing you guys all Arizona State all the time again. So make sure you're subscribed to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. And again, for anybody watching after the fact or listening on audio, we really do appreciate you taking some time out of your day to just talk Arizona State with us. And of course, you've heard from myself, you've heard from Chicken Little. What does the Deli Man have to say about this 2025 season for Arizona State?
I think that being disappointed is fine, but you don't have to be disappointed in the players and the staff. You can be disappointed in the injury luck you had. And yeah, you didn't have good injury luck, or you had really good injury luck last year, but that's why things regress to the mean sometimes.
Yeah.
I think this season is, I think to say that you aren't disappointed in the outcome of the season is ridiculous. Like, of course, everyone is disappointed in the outcome of the season, but to say they outright failed is also ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I do understand people that say any season where you lose to Arizona is a failure. I get it.
I understand that.
I understand it. And but when you don't look at the circumstances, then that's ridiculous. That being said, I still think you should have beaten that team. Yeah, you were banged up, but to have a showing like you did, and again, I know Jeff Sims was starting, and I know you were on your backup center, and I know yada yada yada. I just would have liked to see a better output, and that makes me lean toward this season not being a failure, but being a disappointment for a variety of reasons. Yeah, you were injured. The offense never figured it out. Not one time did this offense figure it out, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
The impact pieces you got in the portal did nothing outside of a few names. Offensively, nobody you got in the portal did a thing. Can you name one player?
No.
Not one player.
Not one player had a massive impact.
And again, I don't
offense.
think that's a lot. I don't think a lot of that's on the players. I think that is a lot on the coaching staff, which is more of a concern and why I would lean more toward that side. That being said, I don't think this is a disappointment when you put everything in perspective where you were 3-9 last year or 2 years ago. Like, you are only 2 years removed from that. We know that this guy is building something special. We know that the fan base has rallied behind him, and the fact that you went and sold out every single game, I think outweighs a lot of the negatives.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very, a good point that you have to bring up too. That this is a program that clearly is on the up and up, being able to sell out now. These types of games, it's going to have an impact on recruits. It's going to have an impact on the players you're able to get via the transfer portal. But yeah, I think again, not having any sort of semblance of an identity on offense really killed this team. Per George Lund of Devil's Digest, this is where Arizona State finished in the FBS rankings in some major stats here. In terms of first quarter points per game, Arizona State in the FBS ranked 133 out of 135 teams. They were one of the worst first quarter offenses in all of college football. They were ranked 108 of 135 in penalties per game, averaging about 7.1. Says they were very either young, undisciplined, or a mixture of the two. Again, I think a lot of those were on the offensive line, right? Erik, watching these games, it felt like there was a lot of procedural offensive line issues that certainly needed to get fixed. And then I don't think you could talk about this season without mentioning special teams and how just abysmal it was. Literally, nobody was worse in the country in the FBS in terms of net punt yards. Arizona State was 134 of 134. You have to be better. You have to be better on that front moving forward. You have to add impact players in the transfer portal. And things certainly need to change in a couple of areas. But again, I think when we talk about, success, failure, disappointment, I think what Wes Beasy said earlier honestly resonates with me a lot is like there were specific games that were very disappointing, right? Mississippi State was a wildly disappointing game. And I think the coaches did a disservice to the players in that game, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. I think the Utah game, completely disappointing on all fronts, regardless of who's playing quarterback. If you are going to be a legit program year over year in college football, there's not a legit program that gets smacked to the mouth the way that Utah smacked you in the mouth. There's no excuses for that, injuries or not, because we saw this team injured go to Ames and take it to Iowa State. Regardless, injuries or not, you should never lose by as many points as you did. I think it was like 42 points or something ridiculous you lost in that game. So those two games, wildly disappointing. And then, of course, Friday's loss in the Territorial Cup, right? And I think you could probably throw in the Houston game as well. You shouldn't have lost that game, especially given the way that Houston finished their season down the stretch. So, yes, all 4 of those games were wildly disappointing. I think they were all incredibly disappointing in different ways and for different reasons. But as a whole, again, kind of getting back to the macro scale of college football, if the only way that you are going to judge success in college football is if you are one of 12 teams playing in the playoff year over year, then don't even watch the sport, because there is so much more that goes into college football than just if you are one of the final 12. And I think for Arizona State fans, maybe specifically, it is going to be a little bit a tougher of a curve because you did get so much early success going to the CFP with a new coach. So, right, your standard is immediately, hey, we did it before, we could do it again. That's true. This program can certainly reach those heights again, go higher. I genuinely believe that. But you are going to be a miserable college football fan if every single year you are only judging success and failure if you're one of 12. Because there are more teams in the Big 12 alone than teams that make the playoff in the country in the FBS. So that is my one point of not maybe contention, but just one reminder. Put it on a sticky note, write it on your bathroom mirror, keep it in your car. I don't know. Just remember that success and failure there's so many things that go into it, especially when we're talking about kids in a young football program that is trying to build something consistently year over year. I think the best days are still ahead for Arizona State fans. And yes, I look at this season overall as a massive success in terms of the macro scale, because we're talking about a team that can win 20 games in 2 seasons combined off the heels of winning 6 in the previous 2 years. But again, I will acknowledge that I think there were certainly very disappointing moments throughout the 2025 season. And I think, again, there was a lot of meat left on the table, injuries or not.
So, and this will be my final point here, because I know we have a couple other things to touch on, and we'll probably get into this quite a bit over the next couple of months until honestly the beginning of next season. It's not the record really for me. And I know that's something that like I've cited and that I'm like, okay, I predicted this. I thought they were going to do this. When you're talking about these rankings that they're in, where they're near the bottom of the FBS, right? Or I think back to these games. How many times did this team play 2 good halves of football this year? Off the top of your head. 2 halves of football consecutively in one game that you're like, you know what? They really just took care of business.
2. Texas State, and then I would say, honestly, Texas Tech, if you remove the final 2 minutes of that game.
Okay. Right. I think for a program, I think taking away the record, I think taking away, the macro, and you say a football team that returned the amount of talent they returned, even if they got injured later in the season, right? To have maybe 2 games that you can talk about that you played complete, holistic, prepared football is unacceptable. The failure with scripted drives on both ends to start a game, unacceptable. The inability to score over 30 points against a majority of your opponents, unacceptable. I think when it comes to the on-field performance, which is a mix of coaching and, yes, individual player performance, as much as they are college kids and we have to lend them some grace, at the end of the day, this is the nature of the beast. You play college football, you play it well, you get all the praise in the world. You play it poorly, you don't. And at the end of the day, part of the reason why I feel the way that I feel is because I don't know if I ever left games fully satisfied. I left games happy. That TCU game, we were over the moon. We did a 2-hour post-game show. Right? I left the Texas Tech game satisfied. That's maybe the one game this year that I really felt like good about. And it's a great game to feel good about. Other than that, we're talking scoreless halves. Halves where, you're punting 20 yards or you're getting a million penalties in one, or an entire season where you can't figure out scoring in the red zone when Raleek Brown is healthy the entire year. right? Like these are things that on a level of football that if the fact that they were this record and that they are 8-4 is a minor or major miracle. And that is a testament to the players and the coaching staff in one right. And then you look at it the other hand and say, okay, well, what if you did beat Mississippi State, right? What if you did take care of business against Houston, right? What if you did these things that could have completely changed how that last weekend against Arizona goes? You know, you are in a completely different position, and those are controllables. Those are internally within this place that I had confidence that this coaching staff would never struggle with. So it wasn't just the injuries and it wasn't just the record. I was never fully satisfied, really. Most Saturdays in our post-game shows, I never really sat down and went like, ooh, that one scratched the itch. They always left more that I felt like they could get on the table.
Yeah, and again, it's when you're chasing perfection, I think you're often going to have that feeling of like, man, there's still something there. And West BZ, you're right. You can't leave meat on the table. I meant to say can't leave meat on the bone. So hand up.
You could leave meat on the table.
Can you leave meat on the table?
Yeah.
You shouldn't.
I guess you
It'll go
could.
bad.
Yeah, you shouldn't. You shouldn't leave meat on the table.
You shouldn't leave meat on the bone either.
No, you should. I mean, eat your fill.
Yeah.
Pretty much is what we're going for here.
Hashtag eat your meat. Is that what you're saying?
Just gonna let that one marinate for a second.
Okay, next time, nice. Next time he says something like that, and he wants to be all silly and cute when he's really just saying something disgusting.
Yeah.
Just don't say anything.
And just
let him sit in that for like 10 seconds.
The sauce. Yeah. No, I got you.
Just to break something up really fast, I just want everybody to know I can see Totri's feet with no shoes on right now, and I want you guys to be jealous.
Toes out?
He does have his socks on.
I have socks on. That would be egregious.
My toes are out.
Feet.
That would be egregious. Thank you. My name is Totri, so it'd be pretty slanderous. Slanderous. There you go. If I didn't have I
don't know if that's the right usage of that.
I still don't even know if it's a word.
It's
slanderous.
It could be.
It could be.
What do you think about word, man? Is that a word?
Yeah, you like big words.
It's absolutely a word.
Slanderous
is for sure a word.
Sure. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button again. Drop 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. I want to put a pin in the JUCO conversation, and I want to hit that on Tuesday. Before we get out of here, though, I do want to congratulate and also let everybody that isn't on Twitter and Instagram know that Arizona State tight end Chamon Metayer has officially declared for the 2026 NFL draft. Somebody that over the last several years has been a staple for that Arizona State offense. Not just a pass-catching threat, but somebody that when he came to Arizona State, it was kind of a big question mark as what his role was going to be. He, over the last several years, has been truly an awesome player to watch at the tight end position. I think you can certainly question how much he got used down the stretch in this Arizona State offense, but one thing that you can't ever question is that Chamon Metayer, when he was out there wearing number 7 for Arizona State, Erik, he was giving it everything he had in terms of run blocking through the air. And I think some Arizona or some NFL team is going to get a gem down the stretch in Chamon Metayer.
Yeah, he actually might have been my favorite Sun Devil over the last 2 years. Obviously, like Cam Scadaboo is going to be up there. You look at the talent of Jordan Tyson, Sam Levitt. Chamon's just been that dude, right?
Yeah.
He has been solid and consistent. Very few and far in between as far as points where he left me wanting more when he was on the field. One of the most probably underrated guys that we'll have covered here in ASU history. Those who watch this team will understand how impactful he was. But, realistically, he's not in the conversation for greatest tight ends in Arizona State history, but I certainly believe that he's up there for one of the most impactful, just with what he did on an every down basis, the big plays that he made, and honestly, the locker room side of things as well, by all accounts, just a fantastic locker room guy. So he will be missed, but we will be rooting for him every Sunday.
1,000%. And Sharon brings up a great point before we get out of here. I want to shout out Arizona State women's volleyball, a number 2 seed going into the NCAA tournament.
Big
also,
12 champs.
Huh?
Big 12 champs.
Big 12 champs, back-to-back Big 12 champs.
B2B. B2B, B12C.
Also hosting here in the first and second round. Again, as the
Wednesday?
2 seed.
Wednesday, Thursday?
December 4th through the 5th. So yeah, toward the end of the week. the Sun Devils set to host again in the NCAA tournament. The students have done a phenomenal job showing up and showing out. Get out there, go watch this team. What JJ Van Niel has done with this program is nothing short of remarkable the last several seasons. So again, tip your cap and go out and watch Arizona State women's volleyball take care of business in the NCAA tournament, because it's what they've been doing really series after series after series. So really, really excited to see what that program does in the NCAA tournament, guys. But that is going to do it for today's episode of the PHNX Sun Devils Show. We again appreciate everybody who stopped by or listens and watches after the fact. Hit that like button and the subscribe button on your way out if you haven't already. If you have, nothing to worry about. Ignore me. If you enjoyed today's content and are itching for more, well, follow the show at PHNX_Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony_Totri. You could follow the man to my left, probably to your right, maybe. I don't know. You can follow the guy with the hat on at Erik Ruby. That's Erik with a K. You can follow the Deli Man at Shane Dief.
Technically, he's to your right and to the chat's left.
He's to my left.
No.
Well, as I'm viewing it.
No, on the screen. Never mind. No, on the screen. He's to your
As
right
always.
on the screen. No, he's to your right on the screen and to the left for everyone watching.
Okay.
To your right on the screen. He's not to the right of you.
He's to my
screen.
left.
No, he's to your right on the screen, to the left of you, though. As always.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. In the meantime, go Devils and peace.
We all silly like the mayor.